Okay, all right, guys. I gotta admit something. Before I even hit record, the lights, they changed and they're two different colors, but I kind of like it. We're gonna stick with that for today's episode 10 recap and review of the Traitors season 4. We're one episode away from the finale, you guys, and I don't know if I love this episode. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real recap and review for the Traitors season 4, episode 10, and it's titled, Do You Know the Enemy? Well, yeah, we do. He's had a snake tattoo on the entire season, man. Rob, come on. But here's the thing. I'm not the only one that is catching on. It seems that our contestants are also catching on. Now, before, of course, we get into all the spoilers, if it is your first time here on the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, reality TV, all the news in between. So if you do too, you know what to do. Hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on those bell notifications because, like I said, we got the finale next week, and then in 2 weeks we got the reunion. I'm excited, Candace, bring it. And in the comments, let me know, who do you think will end up winning, the Traitors or the Faithfuls during the finale next week? Alrighty, y'all, so this is your one and only spoiler warning because, yes, it is going to get heavy into spoilers for the rest of this video because I got a lot to say. I mean, to be honest, yes, I know I didn't love this episode, but there is a lot to talk about. So let's get started with my episode 10 recap. Again, next week is the finale, so this is the penultimate episode, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where I expect crazy things to happen. They really didn't. But we've got some stuff to talk about. Kristen, Tara, Natalie, and Johnny are shortlisted for murder from last week's episode. Y'all remember that? Okay, so now it's time for breakfast. Cue the salmon. Rob says in his testimonial interview that he's beginning to feel the weight of the lies, and being a traitor at breakfast is really weighing on him. Oh my gosh. Good thing he's talking to his bestie, Maura, or is it backwards? Maura thinks Rob is her bestie. I don't know. That girl is smitten. But Maura tells Rob, I just don't trust Johnny and Natalie. Well, funny you say that, because they're shortlisted for murder. Rob says he thinks Natalie got murdered. Now, him saying that leads me to believe it's Kristen, and I actually wrote that in my notes, so I guess I was correct here. But Johnny is saved. He walks in. Tara can breathe. We've got thoughts for Tara later on in this episode. Natalie then enters, which, of course, I kind of saw that coming, which means, ladies and gentlemen, that the 8th murder for season 4 is Kristen. Guess she's been cut, chopped, and taken out of the show. Get it? Because she's a chef. But Kristen really was very smart this season, and she was catching on to Eric as well, who just became a traitor alongside Rob. So I do think that if Kristen would have caught on to Eric, cornered him and said, bro, you're a traitor, he would have said, yeah, me and Rob. I mean, I'm a traitor, yes. Like, he would have squeaked like a mouse, for sure. So Kristen is out of here, you guys, and the house is starting to wonder, oh, snap. We've got a lot of work to do if we want to win this game. We then learn that the Traitors are now aiming to banish Natalie. And I think that is a smart play on their part because then they start turning the house against a contestant who is a gamer, but also someone who is very smart. So Alan Cumming, he enters the breakfast, interrupts this meal, and I'm not going to lie, he seems a little exhausted by this point in the season. Is it just me? I mean, I feel like he had like a lot of energy, high energy, and then we're on episode 10, and I feel like he's thinking, it's time to just end this thing, bro. Someone's got to win. So we end breakfast and get back into the castle grounds, and Tara and Natalie have a one-on-one conversation where Tara tells Natalie, hey, I'm not a traitor. And you know, that always works out, Tara. Yes, just tell somebody you're not a traitor, and I promise they're going to believe you. Note, that never happens, and it never works out well. But Tara begins to speculate that Rob is a traitor, and now I'm starting to think, oh my goodness, wait a second. This is the very first time I think we've heard anyone, any of the Faithfuls at least, speculate that Rob is a traitor. Natalie confirms Tara's suspicions and says, yes, I've been thinking about it too. Oh boy, Rob, you might be in some hot water. So we're going to go now into a conversation between Mark and Rob, who somehow become besties throughout this episode. I don't know. But Mark tells Rob, hey, look at me in my eyes right now, bro. Do a little spin and tell me that you're not a traitor. And Rob doesn't really do the most convincing job. And Mark accepts it, though. So I'm like, Mark, What? Because Mark says, yeah, Rob, convince me. And Rob says, dude, I'm not. Whoa. Great convincing, dude. But yeah, Rob, I think, is feeling the heat. He's feeling the pressure, and he begins to crack a little bit during our mission this week. So before we get there, though, we got a couple more notes here. Mora is having a conversation with Tara and Natalie and says, listen, y'all, my bro could not be a traitor. Mora, get on board here. And during the final conversation before the mission, Eric tells Mark, Rob, and Johnny that he's not ready to move off Natalie. And of course, because that's Eric and Rob's tactic right now. Stay on Natalie, y'all. Stay on mission. But I don't know if everyone's buying it. Well, at least at this point, I don't know if everyone's buying it. But the Traitors, I do think, are starting to feel a lot of heat, and they're trying to move the target off of their backs. Unknowingly could come back to harm them. Alrighty, you guys, so now it's time for the mission, and in this mission, it is very uninspired. Yeah, this might be the absolute worst mission of them all so far. It didn't feel like there was a ton of thought. I mean, yes, there's a carousel that they have to sit in, spins around real fast, they get off, and they have to run into this carnival setting where they find stuffed animals, have to rip them open, and if they have a gold card, they bring it back, and they score for their team. However, after every spin, 1 or 2 chairs get eliminated. So if you are the contestant who doesn't have a chair, but you had a gold card, you're out, bro, and it doesn't get added to the pot. And you also don't get a shield because the last contestant remaining gets a shield for this mission. I just kind of wish it was a bit more layered. The previous missions were so good. This one was the worst of them all. Now, there are 2 contestants that won't be riding this carousel, and that's Eric and Tara because of medical reasons. So they use dummies in their place. Now, I really was hoping that one of the contestants would get off the carousel, get like real dizzy and fall because it would have been kind of funny, physical humor. But that never happened. Instead, I'm thinking, hey, did they even spin this thing? Because if it was me, I'm falling on my face. But no, they ran straight towards the stuffed animals, and well, after the first spin, Rob doesn't have a seat left for him, and he found a $2,500 gold card, and they can't add that to the pot. But that wasn't it. Rob said, I'm going to go out with a bang here, and he comes after Mark, because Mark says, I found a $750 card, and Rob is like, what are we doing letting you sit with a $750 card? Brother, calmate, because that is crazy, bro. You're coming after Mark now? So Mark, I'm sure, is starting to think, why is Rob coming after me so hard? He really wants this shield. Could he be a traitor? Alrighty, next spin happens, and all the contestants are finding their gold cards, and Natalie realizes, oh, Mora, the Rob lover, is having trouble opening up her stuffed animal. Let me help her. And she did, because she thought it would buy her goodwill. Spoiler, it did not. But after that spin, Johnny's eliminated from the game. And then they continue to spin, of course. So nothing really interesting happens in between the other spins. So I'm just going to tell you straight up who got eliminated. Next up is Mark being eliminated. Then Natalie and Tara gets eliminated. And lastly, Mora gets eliminated, which leaves us with Eric, a traitor who wins the game, and he gets the final shield this season. That's huge for Eric because honestly, he might have been eliminated during that roundtable if it wasn't for that shield. But that is huge for the Traitors, and $24,500 has been added to the pot for the final prize. That's a lot of money. Now we're heading back to the castle, and before the roundtable, Tara and Natalie are sowing seeds of doubt with Rob. So both of them are continuing to peddle this Rob is a traitor narrative. However, I didn't care about that. I noticed one thing. Natalie's trap muscles were trapping. I mean, I immediately thought of T.I.'s album Trap Music. Listen, BC James. But still, I was thinking to myself, whoa, she's kind of like, she's ripped, right? But that's besides the point. Let's get into the substance of this episode here. Rob tells Mara that Natalie needs to go tonight, but then after that, it needs to be Tara and Johnny. I think Rob is using Mara as like a puppet to help peddle votes in his and Eric's favor. And that's a little strategic there, isn't it? Alrighty, so now it's time for the 9th roundtable and the 9th banishment for this season. Alan Cumming announces this is the final banishment or the final roundtable where the banished player will reveal their identity as a traitor or a faithful. So if any traitors remain at the end of the game, they will take all the winnings away from the faithful. But if all the traitors are eliminated, then the faithful split the pot, if I'm not mistaken. So Now what I'm starting to think is Candace's throwaway vote for Rob might be used as evidence. Y'all remember that, right? Well, so do the contestants who are trying to go for Rob, because they're thinking, why would Candace just use a throwaway vote on Rob? But Rob is trying to weasel his way out of the corner. He has a hard time at first, but boy, does this man masterfully get out of that sticky situation. And that's all because Tara is now double thinking if Rob really is a traitor or not. Great job, Tara, for backing up Natalie. Psych, you threw her under the bus. And Natalie is not happy. She's very upset at Tara, saying things like, why would you double cross me? You literally changed your mind last minute. But I don't think Tara was alone. I think Johnny helped turn that neck a little bit too. Tara's acting very weird here, and I don't like her switch up, and I'm starting not to like the way she's playing the game in the final stretch here. And then Tara looks to Johnny for help and confirms exactly what I was thinking, which was, yeah, Johnny convinced Tara it's not Rob. Bro, take those blinders off. Come on. Unfortunately, at this point, Natalie has been hurt, and she's on an island by herself. And Rob is clocking that too. Rob says, listen, why would you just want to turn around and vote for me? That's not very smart of you. Huh. And then he starts playing the victim game, and Alan Cumming comes in at a good time and says, all right, we've been deliberating. Contestants, if you have the dagger, raise your hand if you want to use it. And Rob raises his hand and uses the dagger, which gives him 2 votes to cast. And who do you think he uses them on? Natalie. But during the voting process, Natalie nearly broke her chalk piece. She was so upset. But to start off the voting, Natalie votes for Tara. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that is a personal vote. That is not a strategic vote. That is a personal one. So she votes for Tara, knowing that, hey, I'm probably gone, but I'm still going to show you how much I don't like how you switched up Tara. Rob then casts his dagger vote for Natalie, and he's playing the victim card. Mark votes for Natalie. Tara votes for Natalie. What a flip-flopper, brother. My gosh. And then Mara votes for who do you think? Natalie. I guess that teddy bear didn't do nothing for Mara. So Natalie is officially banished, but Alan Cumming says the remaining contestants reveal your vote. Natalie and Johnny have a little stare down moment, and Natalie says, don't say you're sorry, but she throws like a curse word in there, when you turn over your vote and vote for me. And Johnny says, I'm so sorry I voted for you, Natalie. Brother, you better take all that heat. All right, you did it to yourself. But man, what a mess. They did Natalie real dirty. I'm not going to lie, y'all. And for someone who would like to see the Faithfuls win, I don't think that's going to happen now. So after Natalie reveals I am a Faithful, Mark is incredibly upset. But like, bro, you voted for her too? I'm so mad that Natalie's gone. But you contributed to it? Whatever. Alan Cumming then says, everybody have a sweet night. No, he doesn't. He says, have a good one. Have a good one. That's like TTYL. Interesting. Like, be so for real. But Tara says afterwards, I'm feeling really sad, and she's okay with being murdered tonight. Girl, stop crashing out, okay? You just flat out betrayed Natalie. What do you think's gonna happen? Now you got a target on your back. But then we get into this pool room where Rob and Mark are laying on the billiards table having a conversation. But do you know how uncomfortable that must be? Yeah, I played some pool growing up, and it's not the most comfortable padding, right? It's not supposed to be. And also when you lay on it, your lower back, like, oh, my 30-year-old self can't even imagine that. However, Mark reveals in this conversation that he's on to Eric once more. But he's not alone, because Johnny is naming 2, Rob and Eric, and he thinks that they're traitors. Well, you better start convincing the others, Bo, because you're right on the money. It's just I can't trust that you'll keep your vote at the round table, you know? So Rob and Eric, both of our traitors, get into the turret, and Rob tells Eric, hey, brother, you better start speaking up. Because Eric being quiet at the round table and breakfast, it doesn't do much for the traitors, but, you know, Rob is like, listen, if you get eliminated, you get eliminated, and it won't be on me, so maybe you should be quiet. He doesn't say all that, but he was definitely thinking about it. Alan Cumming then comes in and says, time for a twist. He reveals that he's going to summon all of the players, including the traitors, outside of the castle tonight and reveal the murder in front of everybody. There's literally a casket out there, and all the contestants come out after he's ringing his little bell, and they've got to see who gets eliminated. And that's wild. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know. I can see Johnny being the smart move for both Eric and Rob, but Mara would be the smartest or smartest move, for only Rob. And that's because Mara would be like, oh, Rob would never vote for me. He's not a traitor. It takes the bullseye off of Rob's back and puts it onto Eric. So I think eventually they will vote for Johnny this time. I just don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Would it be Johnny or would it be Mara or would it be someone else? It's very interesting to see how they're going to vote during the finale. But that is next Thursday, you guys. So get locked in on the channel so we can talk about the finale right here and the reunion right afterwards. And don't worry, Love is Blind week 3 is still being covered on the channel next week too. So get subscribed, turn those bell notifications on, and like this video, you guys, because that is the end of episode 10 for season 4 of The Traitors. Again, one of the weaker episodes of this season. I'm starting to think that all the personalities leaving the show really don't help the show in terms of watchability at times. There were some boring moments here, some lulls, and for a penultimate episode, you do expect more. So I'm starting to think that maybe eliminating Candace and Lisa, yeah, just kind of stinks. You know, they were good TV, so I'm looking forward to hopefully a very strong finale. Maybe Tarot goes unhinged. Who knows? But y'all, let me know what you think in the comments below. And so I'm just so grateful that we get to cover this show. It's kind of fun, right? Alrighty, y'all. Well, thanks so much for watching. God bless you guys. And I'll catch you at the next screening.